Everyone, I'm Michael from the Long Ways Podcast, and today I'm going to introduce something new for our podcast. We're going to introduce a new series called The Short Ways. So, a couple of weeks ago, Dev and I were sitting down talking about the fact that our hikes are not just exclusively about these massive things throughout Europe and the multi-day events. Often, we just like to go on day hikes. Sometimes they're to prepare for the big hikes. And sometimes they're just to go out and spend an entire day hiking some unique trail. So we decided to go ahead and launch this idea of the short ways, short looks at some fun places we've been to in the past. And so today what I want to do is I want to start with the first segment of this Short Ways podcast, a hike that we took at Caesars State Park in Cleveland, South Carolina. And on this inaugural segment of our new series, I want to introduce you also to Eric Weber. And so today we actually managed to get the Storker onto a microphone to talk about this hike. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, everyone, we have a special guest here today. We've talked about him a lot, and we finally convinced him to get onto the podcast. And this is Eric Weber, whose trail name is the Storker. And we'll get to that some other day. But hey, Eric, how you doing?
Wait, you're recording this? That wasn't part of the plan.
Oops. We figured we couldn't get you on any other way, so we just tricked you. So, surprise.
That's how I get stuck on most of these trails with you guys.
And today we're going to talk about one we just recently got stuck on. What was supposed to be a nice little relaxing day hike in Caesars Head State Park in South Carolina, which turned into an all-day extravaganza, right? So Eric, why don't you tell us just something about you? What do you do? You're a photographer.
Oh yeah, so I stop on the trail and take lots of pictures, giving you guys ample time to take a break. That's what I do.
Thank God, because when I hike with Devin, okay, that kid hikes like 900 miles an hour. So with you, at least I know we're going to stop and take pictures. Okay, so and then Devin can go wherever he goes. So Devin isn't with us this week, but that's all right. We'll see him again soon. So okay, why do we go to Caesars Head State Park?
So, I mean, this was just part of a spring break. We needed to get out and get a little fresh air and some miles in. So we picked the state park. We've been there before. There's a lot of accessible trails there, and we figured it was going to be a nice, easy in and out, a couple days hiking. We picked Dismal Trail, or the Dismal Loop, because it's an 8-miler. Typically in our days, we try to do a nice long day hike, something that challenges us a little bit. We didn't research this one quite enough, though. However,
or maybe not at all, right?
Well, we knew it was 8 miles. We knew it was a loop and it had a waterfall. We'd seen the waterfall from Lookout before and thought, oh, that's cool. There's a trail that goes behind there. We'll have to do that sometime. So that's what we did. We planned it out to leave, sort of mid-morning-ish, and we thought we'd spend, half a day hiking there. There was lots of signage. The trail was easily marked, but we didn't realize that there was a preferred way to do the lollipop, right? Sometimes it's clockwise, sometimes it's counterclockwise. The recommendation for this trail was to go clockwise,
right? Which,
in hindsight, we did the trail. So think of this loop being, a pretty good descent. I think it was 1,600 feet. And then obviously you have to come back. It's the lollipop. You have to come back up the other side. I think the way we did it, it was just a little steeper coming back up the trail. So I think the thought being, if you did it the other way, you'd have a little bit more energy at the end. It was a bear. I'll be honest with you. We've done a lot of day hikes before.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot of steps before. We've done a lot of flights of steps. We've done longer trails, of course, but just the amount of exertion coming down the hill, it was a scramble. Hands and feet sometimes sliding on your rear.
And the backside was not marked, right? So But tell them
It was
about the bridge first. This was our first warning, right?
Yeah, so at the halfway point, well, not quite the halfway point, just under the halfway point, I think there's as you descend down going counterclockwise, there's a suspension bridge over the falls, which is awesome. It's beautiful. The water goes right under it. The bridge obviously goes right over the water. The bridge, suspension bridge, scary. Two people or multiple people are walking on it and not in the same stride. It was a little nerve-wracking for me.
At one
But at the
point, you
end,
stopped and you yelled at me, "Stop! Get off the bridge!" I was on
yes,
one end bouncing, and he was on the other end of bouncing.
I didn't even get my big camera out. I was just trying to take a picture with my phone. But like I said, if you're not walking in stride with someone else, it seems like an like an earthquake going on underneath you, and a lot of water too, of course. So I scurried across the bridge then finally, and at the end of the bridge, there's a big sign that basically says, "Hey, don't go this way unless you're willing to spend like 4.5 hours at least finishing the rest of this trail because it's a really hard trail, and if you don't have food and water, you should go back now." And we were like, "What? It's only like 2 miles. How can it be 4 or 5 hours?"
we thought that sign was so screwed up because the all trail says the entire trail is 4.5 hours, right? And we were already
Yep,
like an hour and a half into this, right? I mean, so hour and a half, maybe almost 2 hours by the time we got down to the bottom, right?
yep,
So
yep. Yeah, the whole if you don't have food and water with you, and you haven't let people know where you are or something like that, it's like you should turn back. And we're like, that must be for really novice people. They must be really worried about folks. And it took us almost 5 hours from that point on.
yeah, I remember the one point. The other problem was the fact that the trail, the Dismal Trail, really in some places isn't a trail. And it's also not as well marked as the other parts. It seems like a lot of people get to the bridge, say the hell with it, and turn around and go back the way they came from whatever direction it was. But there was a lot of not just rock scrambling, but like trying to find the trail. But
Yeah, that's true. Obviously it's heavily wooded, so and there was some damage from the storm. You could tell that a lot of trees were down from a storm recently, and so the trail, the pink side, was often labeled with just like pink plastic tape
yeah,
wrapped around tree branches. Which was nice because obviously the other markers have been blocked, so they'd done a pretty good job of trying to get you on the way, coming down the opposite way, coming
right.
down at least. But going back up at the bottom, it was a little undermarked for sure. We didn't even know where to start when we got across the bridge.
Yeah, and then we hit this second bridge on the bottom, which was just a log across the stream. And we should probably mention that
Literally.
neither one of us are terribly fond of heights, which is amazing because we do all this mountain hiking. But yeah, it was one of those close your eyes and run across type things and hope you don't splatter yourself on the rocks below you.
Uh,
And so then by the time we hit like finally the ascent, we were exhausted. I mean, by the
yeah,
time,
I think on the way back up, we probably stopped a couple times every 300 yards just because it was pretty steep, and like I said, we were out of gas a little bit. We definitely underestimated it.
yeah, yep, I agree. So it was pretty brutal. And then we end up back up there by the Raven Cliff Falls Trail. And once you hit up there, it kind of levels back out again and you can get back. But that trek was so rough. We had planned a longer trip for the next day, and we only did like what Jones Falls, which was 2 miles maybe.
Yeah, we needed to stretch our legs just a little bit, but we were pretty sore.
Yeah,
The
it's a tough.
joints were tough because of we did Table Rock the very first day we were there, and that was pretty hard on the joints too. There's a lot of step ups almost the entire time. So 2 days of that really was eye opening.
Yeah, it was. Yep. So advice to the listeners if they're going to do the trail, what would you do differently
I
besides
think
follow the directions and prepare?
no, I think that's basically it. Like even experienced seasoned hikers need to know what they're getting themselves into. Read the reviews, read the elevation charts. I mean, they're there for a reason. And always be prepared. Always have more than enough water. Always bring some snacks. And be prepared to take a break. That's another thing. Like it's
Yeah.
it's not a race. Be safe. Treat each hike as it should. Respect Mother Nature, because things can happen. We a couple times, just even on the descent, it's slippery, right? There's things that could happen, and the place that we were, there obviously no cell reception, but it would have been really hard to get a team in there to help someone if there was a problem. So take your time.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great trip, and we're going to feature some of Eric's photos up on our website as well, including some warning signs and bridges, and beautiful scenery there that day. It was a fun hike. Now we look back on it. In the middle of it, I remember we were at the bottom, and you asked me, do you want to go back? I'm like, it doesn't make any difference at this point. We're going, we're at the bottom of a well, and I think that's what surprised me was the fact I wasn't expecting, a 2,200 foot elevation change total, or, total gain in South Carolina again, and it's definitely down inside that gorge.
Yeah. I think I would definitely do it again. I don't know that I would switch routes. I don't know that it honestly at the end of the day would matter. Just know that it's going to take you a lot longer than you expected. And the other unique thing is we only saw like a half a dozen people the entire day on the trail. I would think in peak season there's going to be a lot more people. My whole point there is that you'll probably find help with directions on a busier day. Because there'll be more people.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap that up as part of our Shortways trip. And thanks, Eric. And we're going to see Eric again. And we're going to talk a little bit next time about our upcoming trip to a surprise destination, because it's not the place we mentioned in the last podcast. Thanks, Eric.
See ya.
Bye. And so for Devin and I, and now Eric at the Long Ways Podcast, I want to thank you for listening. If you like this, please send it on to your friends or let somebody know. Also, if you're listening here today, please go to our website and get your free Long Ways Podcast decal, which you can put onto your water bottles and computers or anything else you want. We'll be glad to send you some. And listen to our next episode coming up soon about where we're actually heading this summer for our next Long Ways trip. Thank you.